Okay, calling to order the Chaska Park Board's meeting at 7:01 for Monday, February 11th, 2019. Item number one, or I should say item number two, roll call.
Chair David Rohn.
Here.
David Downs.
Here.
Ernesto Ruiz Gutierrez.
Here.
Joshua Ives.
Here.
Lauren Mahalov.
Here.
Patricia Whitrock.
Here.
Sean Olson. Jason Branch, Vice Chair.
Here.
Michael Flaherty Wilcox.
Here. Okay, so with roll completed, moving on to item number 3, adopt agenda. If you could review your agenda, do we have any changes or additions to tonight's agenda? If none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
I didn't hear it first. Oh, no, that's right.
I'll move. I'll second.
All right. So, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Carries. All right. So moving on, visitor presentation. Now, I do believe that we have some staff folks here, but we've got you on the agenda a little bit later on, so you can remain seated for now. And seeing no one else here in attendance, we are going to go ahead and close out the visitor presentation at 7:04. So moving on from that, let's take a look at approving the previous meeting minutes. And so if you've had a chance to review those, or if you'd like to take a moment to do so now, feel free to do so. And then certainly if there's any comments or changes that you would like to see in those meetings, we can discuss that. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January.
So moved.
Okay, and a second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so moving on from that, we have receive council and planning meeting minutes as item number 6. Now, I do not believe there was a planning commission meeting in January, and so we would not have anything to review on that. So for those of you that have had a chance to look at the council meetings from January, certainly open to a motion to accept those.
I thought we didn't have to accept those anymore.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. We do not. Yes, we're just receiving them. So with that, no motion is required, but are there any comments or any discussion items from what you were able to see in those meeting minutes? All right, we're rolling right along then. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at item number 7 for new business. And so, Marshall, if you want, I know there's been some new hires and some changes here with your staff, so
All right. Good evening, Chair and Commission. So in your packet, you received a Chaska Parks and Recreation Department organizational chart. And so I'm excited here tonight with me to introduce a few of our new staff that are a part of this new organizational structure. So over the last year, we've really looked at essentially implementing a management layer within our department. So with that, we now have a recreation program manager, a community center manager, a curling and event center manager, and then a facilities maintenance manager. So those are kind of our 4 divisions that make up our overall team within the Parks and Recreation Department. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up these 3 wonderful new staff, and they're just gonna introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their past experience, what their role is, and what they're excited about here in Chaska.
Hi, So I'm Krista Tolstead, and I'm the new Event Center Supervisor for the Curling and Event Center. I'm originally from Bismarck, North Dakota. I went to college in Moorhead, Minnesota, MSUM. Graduated with a degree in public relations and advertising, and also a minor in media analysis. A lot of my internships and volunteer experience is really marketing heavy and digital marketing heavy. And then I worked for 3 years. I moved back to Bismarck and worked for 3 years as a sales and event coordinator for the Bismarck Event Center, which was also city-owned. So I'm quite familiar with venue management with a city-owned facility. And so I'm really excited to bring that venue management experience here to Chaska. And I'm also excited to get to utilize my marketing skills to see what we can do for the Curling and Event Center.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Kelsey McNutt, and I come here all the way from Denver, Colorado. I was born and raised in Colorado. I attended Colorado State University. My background in recreation prior to coming here is I worked for the South Suburban Park and Recreation District, and I managed their Goodson Recreation Center there. My background in recreation is very heavily aquatics based and kind of that safety facility management base. So I'm extremely excited to be here as the new community center manager to help grow and lead an awesome team. And kind of use my skills and knowledge to implement some new things and help lead that awesome team. Thank you.
Welcome.
My name is Erin Link, and I am not really new, but I'm old, I guess. But no, I'm new in the recreation program manager role as of, I think, 2 weeks today, and I am stepping from the athletic supervisor role that I've been doing previously. So I started with the department in 2011 and did a couple different support roles for the first year or two before I moved into the athletic supervisor position, where I was coordinating the preschool, youth, adult, all the different athletic programs for the city of Chaska. But I'm very excited for this new role as recreation program manager. I'm most excited because with this new opportunity for new responsibilities, I get to stay working in a community that I love. I live here with my husband and 3 kids. We love Chaska, and so this new role is very exciting because I'll be able to do some new projects and continue to work with a great team that I've worked with for a while already. I'm looking forward to kind of really looking at the programs and events that we have been doing thus far, and seeing how we can kind of expand and enhance those. Working with the team for new events and new programs, kind of seeing where our areas of interest or maybe gap areas are. I have a background in therapeutic recreation from La Crosse, Wisconsin, and so I have a background programming for people with special needs, and we have kind of started some new programming already in our department, and I'm excited to kind of see where that might go and grow on that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, congratulations, all of you, and I know you've kind of shown up here from Colorado, Kelsey, during somewhat of a historic cold snap. It does get better. So, yeah, it won't be, well, hopefully May before it gets better, but it's, it does get better. And the summers are really nice.
Any other questions you guys have? No? Well, I'll just go on record and say I'm just super excited to have them join the team. It's great to welcome some new perspective from out of state into our department, but also to reward those that are doing a great job internally, and see Erin in the new promoted role that she's in. So this is really just gonna provide staff kind of that day-to-day go-to manager to really start focusing in on developing the respective areas that they manage. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks. All right, so that completes item number 7, which takes us into item number 8, which is other business. 8A being an update on the mountain bike trail.
Yeah, so I'm happy to say we're getting closer. So working behind the scenes here, I can share with you that recently just had the city attorney approve the Memorandum of Understanding that would be in place between the city of Chaska and the Carver Trails mountain bike group. So now essentially what's going to happen is that's going to get submitted back over to the Carver Trails group, and they're going to take that MOU back to their lawyer that they're working with, have them review it, and then look into establishing the insurance requirements that would kind of dovetail with that with the language within that understanding. So feel really good about that progression. And then just last week, myself and our city engineer, Matt Clark, met with Carver County's traffic engineer, Dan McCormick, to talk about the language that would be within the limited use permit that we're ultimately seeking from Carver County as it relates to that section of land within the project we're looking at that MnDOT had turned over to Carver County. So there's just a few things that the county's looking for. Namely, there's some wetland area that we need to be considering. So we got to do a delineation on that wetland, which obviously during the winter season we can't perform a delineation, but we're just going to put the language in there with a contingency that we'll complete that in the spring. And then just a couple other things to round out kind of the parking plan that comes with it. So once that gets accomplished, they're going to then need a little bit of time for Carver County's lawyer to review that permit, and then we'll be able to, once they kind of sign off on that piece of it, I'll have everything then ready to be able to take to our city council and ask them for a resolution to go ahead and proceed with seeking the limited use permit through both MnDOT and Carver County. So making some good progress. I feel pretty good that we should be able to accomplish most of this throughout the remainder of this month, and then ideally bringing it to our city council either at their first or second meeting in March. So we're making good progress there.
And then what happens as far as the development of the trail? Would that start shortly thereafter, sometime early spring?
Yeah, pretty much just based on the weather. You know, ultimately what'll happen through, especially through MnDOT, is kind of the aftermath of getting a limited use permit is we then need to obtain from MnDOT what's called a work permit. And then that would allow them to go on the site and actually perform work. So that would be the time between that, getting that permit in place along with weather that they can work with. They would then begin laying out the trails and starting to work on them with their volunteers. So, but they've already done a lot of great work in putting a website together, and so that once we're ready to go, it'll have a nice look and be able to communicate and promote this new facility throughout Chaska and the community to use.
Outstanding. Any other questions for Marshall on the mountain bike trail? All right, hearing none, move on to item 8B, the bicycle-friendly community update.
Yeah, so sticking with the theme of bicycling, actually developing the mountain bike trails obviously helps position the bicycle-friendly community as well. So a few weeks ago, myself and Pat Stieg with Carver County Public Health went and met with the folks from Bicycle MN who had come on site to do the original workshop with us late last fall, and learned from them that they're working on preparing an initial report that essentially kind of the results that came out of that original workshop. along with just some of the observations and studies that they've done on our community. They're hoping that could be done sometime end of February or in March. Once that's completed, we would look to bring them back and maybe present under a visitor to be heard, just to kind of see where we're sitting. But one of the things that came out of the discussion we had with them is kind of this essence of timing and understanding where we are at and when is the right time to submit the application to the American Bicycle Alliance. Because what I had learned is you can only apply every 4 years. And so I think we need to have a decent understanding of where we think we fall in receiving a designation, along with what are maybe some things that we can implement within a reasonable amount of time that might make us to stop and think, let's wait, let's implement these things, put us in a better position when we go to apply, and have a stronger application at that point. Because I feel like overall we're starting to create some momentum just around bicycling, and there's just more conversations to be had in the community and some more awareness that goes with it. So one of the things too that the American Bicycle Alliance has is there's actually a bicycle-friendly business designation. And so that would be another step we could take, is working with some of the local businesses to see if they would have an interest in obtaining that designation, because that also then kind of plays into the city receiving more of the overall community designation. And ultimately, we want to work with the businesses to promote more bicycling to their businesses and what that could look like. We're working on wayfinding is another area of interest that we're working on with Carver County and Victoria. We got a meeting coming up actually at the end of this week to talk about how we might implement some pilot projects to see how we can position some wayfinding out on the trails, get people out on the trails, receive feedback, and some input on how that might look before we invest in more permanent signage out on the trail system. Working with the school district as well around bikes and the fact that they received from Carver County a bike fleet through a grant, and so the schools are using this bike fleet as part of a PE curriculum. And then working with community ed, though, there's the thought that outside of the school year, there could be some partnership in using that bike fleet. So how could we as a Parks and Recreation Department utilize that bike fleet in the summer months, for example, to put on some bike education programs or whatever it may be. So I think there's a lot of great things going on around the biking world. And we'll just continue to have those discussions, and along with getting this report back from Bike MN. One other thing to note, they're also sending us essentially the 182 question application that we would ultimately have to fill out. That was something I had asked of them, so we kind of wrap our heads around what is it that they're all assessing as part of that application, which will help kind of give us a better understanding of where we think we currently sit. I'm trying to think of anything else.
Part of the application, I think, don't you have to have a committee formed and people designated to help with this whole program?
That definitely helps, having a citizen committee and or a stakeholder committee, yeah, which is what we sort of created with that workshop. And so that'll be, one of the intentions will be to communicate back out to those individuals that attended that as we learn more with these initial findings. that Bike MN comes back with, and continue kind of discussing what are the things that we can put in place to continue to make Chaska a more bikeable community.
Are you gonna head the effort up yourself, or are you gonna have somebody in your group that's gonna kind of manage this whole thing?
More than likely, that'll be something I'll head up on my end, and then I'll see if there's staff that are interested that would like to help in that area. I think there will be, but also leaning on other champions in the community that want to be a part of the ongoing process of meeting with such group.
Because this will
going
be,
forward.
eventually, this is gonna be a pretty big effort for the city, is it not, to do all the planning and
I think
things
it could be,
necessary?
yeah, I mean, and that's the beauty of going through this process, is it identifies where our gaps are, you know, and gives us a roadmap on what it is we can do forward to just continually improve upon our bikeability, and, you know, seeing what flavor of support there is for that at the council level as well, to support those efforts. But it'll take all of the different groups in the community, from the schools to the businesses, different volunteer groups, to be a part of it. Keep building that excitement.
How soon do you think you'll be able to identify some of those easier to achieve opportunities that you think that you could complete to improve our initial application?
Well, I think some of it may be simply looking at other cities in Minnesota that have received this designation, and reaching out to them and understanding some of the things that they did. I mean, it could be even just as simple as installing more bike racks throughout the city. I think the wayfinding is a big thing. Creating maps, updating our website. You know, those are all things that are doable. And then it's also
I'm sorry.
even just the creating events and just more awareness around biking. You know, so I know I've talked with some of our recreation staff about bringing back a biking event. I know a couple years ago we had that Bike Connect event, and whether or not it's something like that or something completely different, but I think we could come up with a unique biking event for the community that could get people out and about on our trails. Another example is really promoting in May, when it's Bike to Work Week. How do we get the businesses behind that? How do we get the schools behind that? How do we as city staff get behind that? You know, and put that out and showcase the benefits of it.
Back to the wayfinding, you said that you're kind of collaborating with Victoria and, is it
Carver County.
Carver County?
Yep.
Is that so that, you know, there can be some continuity between whatever it is that we do and what they do, so that the signage is going to be easy for people that are transitioning from one community to the other, to be seeing a similar method of doing it?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So the reality is, nobody really has trail wayfinding in this in this southwest region, and so when we approached Carver County at looking at partnering on that, it just kind of became that next logical question of what other communities within the county are interested in looking at this from a more system-wide perspective. So whether you're on a city trail or a regional trail, the users really don't care who owns the trail. They're trying to get from point A to B, or how they're going to get back to where they started is the main thing. So if we can land on a consistent methodology to what that signage might look like, But I still think there's room for branding within
Sure.
our respective communities, would be the ideal.
I would think with the events even, because we have so many trails, and I think we, people don't even know everything that we have, which goes back, I think, a bit to the wayfinding, but also when you start to think about event planning, so even in a loose way of, okay, Saturdays at 10, very family friendly, we're gonna meet at this one, and we're all gonna do a big bike ride, and we're gonna explore this trail, and next week we're gonna be over at this one, and even are there easier, looser ways to encourage people to explore different trails and get out and do it in a family-friendly way or a more hardcore biking way or whatever that might be. And I think that the Chaska Run Club has been a great way to help people find new trails for running
Yep.
and doing different things. And is there an opportunity, especially with everything going on with the mountain biking group and everything, is there an opportunity for more of a grassroots way to get out and encourage people to explore more of those trails? And is there a way we can maybe help that get off the ground? So that would be something to think about.
Yeah.
And the other note I made here is, as you're talking with other communities who've gotten the designation, and I know we've already committed to the idea of pursuing it, and I absolutely think it's worth pursuing. I'd be interested to hear from the communities who've already achieved the designation. Was it worth it? Like, what have they gotten out of it since they got it? Because that's always nice to hear. We did it, and it did take some work, but since we did it, these 4 great things have happened, or we haven't noticed much of a difference, but we still feel like it was worth the effort or whatever, and I'd be interested to hear kind of what their perspective has been, as long as you're talking with them about how their processes went.
Yeah. Great suggestion.
What would be the nearest community that's gone through the process?
I believe Edina
Oh,
might be
okay.
the nearest.
So I'm not gonna have to fly somebody in.
Yeah, yeah.
Ely.
And then I'm pretty certain Maplewood might be currently pursuing it as well.
Okay.
Interesting,
Yep,
It'd be great to learn from what they've experienced.
right?
yep.
Yeah.
And then the community of Wilmer is another great example of more of a smaller community.
Right.
And boy, they're knocking the bicycle-friendly stuff out of the park in their communities. They're very engaged. I think Bike MN said in the town of Wilmer, they've got 11 businesses signed up
With the designation.
with the designation.
Wow.
So I think they actually, per capita, have the most bicycle-friendly businesses across the nation,
Wow.
so,
What's the population of Wilmer? Can we beat them?
I don't know.
Can we do better?
It sounds like a challenge.
I think it
yeah.
is.
I think Wilmer's probably a little smaller than Chaska.
I think so too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Okay. We see you, Wilmer.
All
I think
right.
but I think there's a lot of champions out there that are willing to support this. And the more we just keep talking about it and coming together and identifying how we can improve and showing those benefits, I think it'll just, it seems more like a journey than a destination. I think it's gonna be an ongoing plan. But this is a great way to just assess where we're at and continually try to improve.
That raises an interesting question. Once you get the designation, do you have to reapply or maintain, or is it for
Yeah,
life?
every 4 years.
Every
you
4
keep
years you have
reapplying.
to- okay.
Yep, yep.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments on that? All right, so with that, thank you, Director Grange, and we'll go ahead and close out of item 8 and move on to item number 9, staff reports, 9A, department happenings.
All right, so in your packets, per usual, this is where staff throughout the department submit their highlights from last month, and then looking ahead to the next month. And it's always fun for me to pick a few of those items out to share with you. So starting off with last month's activities at the community center, happy to share that the holiday membership drive was a very good success. It was pick your perk, was kind of the theme of that membership drive. So annual memberships were positioned that you purchase an annual membership for 12 months, but then you get the 13th month for free. And then there was this ability to earn another perk. If you visited the community center a minimum of 8 times throughout the months of January, February, and March, essentially you get to earn another perk. And there were a variety of perks we had made available for people to select from. And so with that, we saw 316 new annual memberships that signed up as part of that drive. And then just as a follow-up from last month, while we're on memberships, I know Commissioner Olson had asked kind of how the memberships were going with some of the changes that were implemented at the beginning of last year with the membership structure. And so with that, comparing December of 2017, which would have been right before we made the membership amenity change, looking through to January of 2019, we saw a 13.75% increase in the number of memberships and an overall 18.75% increase in the number of members. So I think that's definitely showing a positive result from that membership change. So right now we're sitting at just below about 9,000 members, overall members at the Chaska Community Center, which is very impressive.
That's outstanding.
Looking at the Chaska Curling and Event Center, excited to see a couple of bond spiels coming up. So this coming weekend will be the mixed spiel. It's got a kind of a Hawaiian beach theme. So you'll see a lot of couples coming in and maybe bringing the warmer rays with them, hopefully. And then looking ahead to March, a very significant event with the USA Curling U18 National Championships will be occurring March 13th through the 17th. Within recreation programming and community events, we held the annual Grandparents and Me at the Chaska Community Center on Sunday, January 27th, and that was a big hit with over 150 participants at that event. And then happy to say our Adaptive Adventures program continues to do well. In fact, Aaron and I recently went and met with some of the staff at St. Francis, one of our partners in our building, and their Capable Kids program staff, and had a really good conversation and kind of showcasing some of the things we're striving to achieve in working with the adaptive population along with what they're doing and how we can work together in the future. So looking forward to more things happening in that area. And then looking ahead, this Thursday is Valentine's Day, and so there's some fun activities planned for the active older adults with some fitness programming that morning, followed by a party in the lodge. And then we've got, looking forward to the Extreme Kids registration for summer 2019. That's always a big date on the calendar to mark off, and that's going to be March 1st at 9:00 a.m. to register kids for Extreme Kids. And then lastly, just to point out at the art gallery, we've got the transfer of memory display over at the community center, and that's just been an amazing display. It's brought in a lot of people to the art gallery, and if you haven't been there yet, I highly recommend you to go. And there's pictures of all the people that are survivors from the Holocaust, and short story that came with it. And a big part of making that happen was Mary working with the group to bring that in. And last night we hosted an event where one of the Holocaust survivors shared her story and ultimately received an award from the FBI.
Wow.
Wow.
And even with the snow occurring last night, we had, I think it was approximately
325.
325 people come to that event. So the community theater was completely full, and then we had overflow participation in the community room. And we were able to work with our communications department to stream it over into the community room so they could see the presentation. So a lot of great energy behind that display and all the stories coming out of that, which is really neat to see.
It's available on YouTube also.
And it's available on YouTube also. So if you were not able to make it, make sure you check that out. Let's see, another follow-up item that Commissioner Olson had last meeting was around the KPMG Women's Championship, and just kind of wondering where the plans were at, and I think especially wondering about parking. So we did learn from our communications manager, Kevin, that the website is available out there to learn more about that event. It's a rather lengthy site, but it is KPMG Women's PGA Championship.com.
Wow.
But there you can find information on tickets, volunteering, hospitality, along with news and media. And then more details are to come with like the spectator's guide. So as we get closer to that event, more information will be put out from the spectator point of view, which will include details on parking.
Do you know what the dates are for that, Marshall?
Yeah, it's going to be June 18th through the 23rd
Okay.
over at Hazeltine. And that is it for my updates.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Marshall on this item? All right, well, hearing none, that moves us on to, informally, this is kind of our roundtable time, and so we'll just kind of go around here with Commissioner Mihailov, if you want to start us off with whatever's on your mind.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Okay. David?
Nope, gonna pass.
John?
Well, I am excited for a special event on Friday evening at the community center. Hopefully, I think it's Friday. I better be right. It's the Sweethearts Dance with my 5-year-old. So, something to mention that. The other thing was, I've noticed at the dog park, which I really enjoy going to, that some people are allowing their dogs off leash from kind of the parking area, which is along the street, to the woods area, which can cause problems. And then I think some of the people whom I see that have their dogs off leash aren't really destined for the dog park itself. They're just, they probably historically have been using the dog, or the area of Lions Park as an off-leash walk, which I think is obviously going to send the wrong signals to others that go to the dog park specifically. So I don't know what the solution for that is. You know, maybe eventually some reminders either at the entrance to the actual wooded fenced area, or some other communications, maybe on Facebook or what have you. But I probably see it once a week.
Okay.
It's sometimes it's tough to tell. Most of the time, it seems like they're just people just walking their dogs in the area, just off leash. But then what you have is a situation where they're encountering dogs that are on leash, and it's just not something that I think we should, or that's something that we should be aware of and try to solve. So.
Yeah, especially to an area where we're inviting more dogs.
Exactly.
Especially, so.
You
that's-
know, they probably have the history of, I never see anybody here, because this was 2 hockey rinks.
Right.
And I come at 6 a.m. and now, obviously the traffic is multiplied times 100, so it's just more important now.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's good feedback. Well, I think, a few things, we can always do more awareness, whether it's on our website, through social media, but also talking with the police department from a kind of an enforcement standpoint as well, and working with the community service officers. Again, just to have a presence out there to inform people, what the rules are, and it's all for the sake of people's and dogs' safety, so.
Yeah, I mean, a reminder from a police officer goes a long way.
Yeah.
Because some people obviously are Minnesota nice and they're hesitant to bring it up. I'm probably in that category too, but, so, anyway.
Well, could it be handled too through some signage?
Well, I mentioned that, yeah.
Right by the parking area, so when people get out of their cars with their dog, there's something, please have your dog on leash until you enter the dog park area.
Yep.
I like that, maybe even the construction of some sort of a bulletin board so that, messages can revolve in and out as opposed to a fixed sign. Because it might be an issue that once it kind of gets understood, ceases to be an issue.
Maybe.
But then something else could come up when you'd have this sign that you could then
It's a way to communicate.
change the messaging. And it could be, an opportunity for dog owners to communicate with one another too. So it wouldn't be just limited to what we wanted to post on it.
Yeah, at one point we had talked about whether that park needs a friends group that goes along with it too. Some community members that are sort of watching over it, and that may be a good thing for that group to take on is reinforcing the rules and making, pointing out dog safe, people safe practices.
Right, yeah, and I think, a messaging board in conjunction with kind of a group that, with an interest in it, it's all gonna be about building better community in that park.
Yeah, exactly.
We could have Pat as the enforcer
I was
too,
thinking
across the street, so.
What's the pay?
All right, anything else, Josh?
Nope, that's it.
I don't have anything.
Ernesto?
Nope.
All right, and I don't really have anything else as well. So, with that, our next park board meeting is going to be on Monday, March 11th. Not sure if we're going to have a work session in advance of that one. That'll be something we'll be talking about. But otherwise, it'll be 7 o'clock right here. So, with that, without any other comment, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
All right.
A second.
Ayes and downs. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned.